Okay, hello everybody. It is time to take a look at the brand new Player's Handbook Playtest 7 for 1D&D, aka D&D 5.5, aka whatever the hell they're planning on calling the next edition. This is literally so new that it just came out like minutes before I hit the recording button on this recording, so we're going to be getting my live reactions to the new rules. Hopefully, changes for the better. I'm still cautiously optimistic about 5.5. So we'll just go ahead and skim through this. I've already taken a glance at some of the changes, some good, some bad. I'm really more just curious to see exactly what they've been doing. So let's go ahead. The main classes that are going to be going over today are Barbarian, Fighter, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. We also have some revised spells, some revised weapons, changed version of the ability score improvement feat, which I'm very curious about, some changed rules, and the usual notes, this is a playtest, etc., etc. So, right off the bat, we have Barbarian. Now, most of the normal stuff is still Barbarian things, of course. Now, let's see here. Rage. What have they changed with Rage? Still get resistance to physical damage. Always good. Advantage on strength checks. You get bonus damage, and bonus damage is the same. I've always felt like the bonus damage from Raging should be higher. Maybe that's just a me thing, but it just seems weird that it only caps out at 4 on a class that only gets 2 attacks. So, like, at best, by level 16, you're getting 8 bonus damage from Raging. I don't know, it always just felt like it should be higher to me. Like, at least go up to, like, 5, so that it's, like, the equivalent of, getting more, like, doubling your strength or something like that. But, oh, whatever, that's a minor nitpick that has been around for, over a decade at this point. And then, yeah, they still have the change to Rage, where now you can just take a bonus action to keep extending your rage, which is always a good thing. It looks like they've kept most of the changes that people liked. Like, for example, Primal Knowledge. This one I really liked in the previous Barbarian playtest because it lets you actually do things with rage outside of combat. Like, it actually gives Barbarians utility so that now they can do things like track people using their rage. They can detect people that might be hidden. They can obviously scare people better by raging, which, feels like something that should have been around a lot longer. Um, and yeah, so you can use your strength. For anybody that doesn't know, this essentially means that while you are raging, you can use your strength in place of your normal ability score. So, like, instead of using wisdom for survival, you use your strength. Instead of using, dexterity for stealth, you use your strength, and so on and so forth. And I always thought that that was a good ability to give to Barbarian, so that there's a reason to use your strength outside of combat. Other than that, I mean, what else is actually new here? Feral Instinct. I think that's new to 5.5, but I'm pretty sure that was in the last playtest. This is the older edition, the playtest 5 packet here. Let's see here. Yeah, Feral Instinct was here. Ah, but the other ability, Instinctive Pounce. Okay. As part of a bonus action you take to enter your rage, you can move up to half your speed. I mean, hey, I'll take it. It's a pretty minor ability, I will say. Like, it's only when you enter your rage you move up to half your speed, but I mean, you get at the same level, you already get a pretty decent ability. Um, Getting advantage on initiative rolls is nice. Although, actually, one thing I'm curious about is, because if you already are in combat, oh no, sorry, this isn't while you're raging. This is just normal. Okay, I'm reading comprehension. Yeah, so you just get advantage on initiative rolls. Okay, I think that's good because most barbarians aren't going to be dex focused. So if anything, it more just makes up for the fact that a lot of barbarians are only going to have, you know, anywhere from like 12 to 16 decks compared to like a rogue. Where, so like this way you can have better, you know, you act quicker in combat. Uh, and then, yeah, being able to move, I guess it helps because sometimes you have other things you want to do with your bonus action. So spending your bonus action to enter rage can be kind of annoying because now you get nothing else that you can do out of it. So being able to move as you enter rage, I think that's nice. And plus with the fact that it combos with your increased movement speed, because like, you know, at level 5 you get 10 more move speed, so this technically lets you move, what, 15? No. It would be 20 feet, yeah. Oh man, I cannot math today. Okay, Brutal Critical. So this actually, if I recall correctly, Brutal Critical, yeah, Brutal Critical was a level 11 feature. Now they've moved it down to level 9. I still really don't like this kind of feature being the only thing you get on a level because, like I said, this is a feature that it's technically powerful, I guess, because you get way better crits. But the problem is that you literally only crit 5% of the time, so you're only using this ability 5% of the time. So what are you supposed to be doing the other 95% of the time that this level is just a dead level? Like, you don't get anything else out of this level that you can actually, like, use even passively. So it's just, it's not, I mean, okay, wait, do you get, no, Weapon Mastery is at level 10, so you don't even get a new Weapon Mastery. You know, your rage damage, I guess, goes up. If you want, like, you get 1 more damage on your base rage, and your proficiency bonus, I guess, also goes up. It just, I'm just not a huge fan of Brutal Critical. Although, actually, did they change the wording slightly on that? Yes, they did. So, previously, it's equal to your Barbarian level. Okay, but now it's actually based around D12s. And then you get another D12 when you reach 13 and 17. I mean, so what? D12 is 6.5 damage on average. So with 3d12, you're getting what, 18, 20. So you are, I guess it's technically about the same. You're just rolling dice instead of getting a flat bonus. I mean, it's still a very like, this is the kind of ability that I would rather see like at level 7 when you're already getting something else, because you need to get this alongside a more consistent ability. Okay, level 11, Relentless Rage. So I think that this was also, yeah, this was also a higher level ability that they've moved down, which, you know what, I'm okay with that. Moving that, because like so many games barely play past level 12. You know, it's like been proven through surveys and whatnot that the vast majority of games do not go above level 12, or somewhere around like 10 to 12 is like the mid-range level. So like what matters the most in any class, and I'm spending a lot of time on Barbarian, but that's just because I'm kind of establishing these things. But what matters the most is going to be like level 12 and under abilities. So like, you know, when you have a really cool ability like this at level 15, that's cool and all, but the vast majority of people are never going to see it. Whereas this, I think, is really nice to have it at level 11, because that almost makes it a capstone for normal games. And it's actually, it's a fun and flavorful Barbarian ability, where you just basically are too angry to die. It gives you a reason to invest in Constitution, because it's a Constitution saving throw to not die. So, like, I like moving it down. Then you have Persistent Rage. So this... Yeah, so this was actually moved up from level 13. So previously it was you rage for 10 minutes without needing to do anything to extend it, so that way you get rid of that condition. With this, now lasts for 10 minutes. Okay, so they did change it. Oh, no, never mind. It's still... Rage still ends early if you have the incapacitated or don't heavy armor. Rage ends early if you have the unconscious condition, which seems to be the same thing. I mean, I think that's fine, moving that up. That seems like mostly a flavor ability, and again, it's after mid-level, so whatever. Indomitable Might. So this was actually a much lower level ability previously. Yeah, the Indomitable Might was a 9th level ability in the previous playtest with Barbarians. I mean, I kind of get that. The Rogues kind of had an ability that's very similar, and especially when you're giving Barbarians the ability to use basically, any major skill that they would want with Strength, also making it so that at a relatively low level, they basically cannot roll badly, when that's kind of a rogue thing. I understand moving that up. It's fine. And then level 20, I gotta say, I like that they brought back Primal Champion like it used to be. And the last one, it was really weird because... So, are they getting rid of epic boons then? Because there's no mention of the epic boon. But they also did weird things where, like, you only get to buff one of your stats by 2, and then use the epic boon to buff one of them to 4. Whereas I like that they're just bringing it back, keeping it simple. Strength and con increased by 4. Call it a day. Bada boom, bada bing. But yeah, I'm curious though. Is there anything for epic boons, or is that just gone now? Because I'll admit, I kind of like, again, most games don't play to level 20, but it was kind of a neat system, in my opinion. But, yeah, I'm not seeing anything mentioning about epic boons, so... Huh. I guess we'll see as we move on, but hey, either way, I'm glad that it's gone back to increasing things by 4. So, now let's take a look at the subclasses. So, Berserker, this is your generic subclass. Is this really even changed that much from the previous one? Frenzy, Mindless Rage. Intimidating Presence is now a bonus action. Yeah, that's... So it's basically the same. It's your generic Barbarian. It's better than the current 5e1. Ooh, actually, is that still... Roll a number of d6s equal to your rage damage bonus. Yeah, so they basically just, Frenzy is you get just an ass load of bonus damage. Deal extra damage on the first target hit. That's fine. Mindless Rage, immunity to Charm and Frightened. Again, it's a very specific ability. Still not a huge fan of that. Because, what about the other 90% of the time when you're not fighting enemies that charm or frighten you? This ability just means nothing. Retaliation. When you take damage, you can basically... taking damage triggers attacks of opportunity. Pretty sure that's the same. And then Intimidating Presence, yeah, the only change is they made it a bonus action, and then you can terrify people, which is, again, I like that, and I like that it's a bonus action now, so that you can still do your main Barbarian thing, because, this whole point of this subclass is this Frenzy ability, where you just do just an absolute unfortunate amount of damage to one person that you hit. They're basically getting sneak attack dice. You get 46 bonus damage by the end of this. Yeah, that's not bad. It's better than the current one. I mean, it's hard to be worse than that. So Wild Heart. So this one is interesting. So basically, what I heard is that they actually nerfed the Totem Bear Barbarian a little bit. And, yeah, so... Yeah, the bear no longer grants resistance to all but one damage type. The former design was too powerful. So, I feel like a lot of people are going to harp on this for them, or harp on them for this, because, they're doing the classic, okay, time to nerf marshals again and make casters more powerful. But honestly, I think I kind of see where they're coming from. If we look at the classic, totem warrior barbarian here, the thing is that the bear was such a good option compared to everything else that you could basically delete the other 4/5 of this subclass. And because nobody played Totem Barbarian for anything but Bear. In Baldur's Gate, they kind of buffed some of the other options to make them actually worthwhile. Um, but everybody in 5e plays Totem for the Bear to get resistance to everything but psychic damage. And if you actually look at what the change is, I think it's actually not that bad of a nerf. And it's also, it makes the ability more active, because one of the problems I have with the current Barbarian is that so many of your abilities are passive. You don't really make choices in combat, because literally the entire flowchart for how a Barbarian is played in the current version of 5e is you pick an enemy that you want to attack, you decide whether or not you're going to use reckless attack, you rage at the start of combat, because you just do that every fight, and then you just attack. And that's basically it. And already they have improved it a little bit by adding weapon masteries, which we'll get to, I'm sure. And weapon masteries do give you a couple more options just inherently. But other than that, most of the class abilities are still very fixed. They're very set in stone as to what exactly you can do with them. So by changing it so that Bear, you choose 2 damage types when you enter Rage, and then you become resistant to those types, I think that's a really interesting and tactical way to design the ability, so that now you actually have to analyze the situation and think about okay, I'm fighting a fire elemental, should probably grab fire resistance. I'm fighting a necromancer, maybe necrotic resistance would be nice, because you can still choose esoteric damage types, you just can't pick force or psychic, and that's it. So if you're fighting a general spellcaster, choose fire and lightning to resist most evocation spells. You can, and that'll cover most of what you'd want anyways, because you still get all your physical resistances as well. So I feel like most fights, you're not going to be worrying about 3 different damage types coming at you at once, unless you're fighting an archmage or something. And even then, at that point, I'm sure an archmage can deal with a barbarian through other means regardless. So I honestly don't think the nerf is that bad, and it does also come with buffs to the other options. Now, there is only 3 compared to the 5 that the Barbarian has in current 5e, so maybe they'll add more over time. But I do like that they've buffed these quite a bit. They've made it so that Eagle, now, as a bonus action, you get both the disengage and dash action while you're raging. So, you basically, you ignore opportunity attacks, and you're moving absurdly fast. And, keep in mind, the base Eagle is you get the dash action, and then people just have disadvantage on opportunity attacks. So this is, you just flat out ignore opportunity attacks with this, which I think is a nice buff. Now, I am curious to see what they'll do with the monk. I don't think the monk is in this book, but it does seem kind of funny that they just recently gave the monk the ability to use both the disengage and dash action by spending a key point, and now the barbarian can do it while raging. I mean, at least it's tied to a specific subclass, but that monk cannot catch a break. And not to mention that one of the new fighter subclasses they're introducing is a brawler that's based around unarmed strikes and improvised weapons. So it's what is the monk even for anymore? Okay. But moving on, and then of course we have the wolf, which is mostly the same as the 5e version. But the 5e version is anybody within 5 feet of you, allies have advantage on attacks against them, whereas this one is within 10 feet. So it's a small buff, but a buff nonetheless. So it's like I said, I feel like a lot of people's first reaction is going to be, "Oh my God, they nerfed bear barbarians. How could they do this to me?" But it's like they also buffed the other ones too. And one of the other changes I like flavor wise is like in the base game, it's the same 5 animal options each time you get new abilities. So it's like you go bear and then you become also bear and then bear again. So you become, the ultimate bear. But I like the idea that the totem barbarian is actually more about combining aspects of different animals so that now each time you get a new trait it's from a different animal. So like even if you always are picking like the most tanky one, instead of just becoming the bear, you are, bear, elephant, and lion or whatever. And like I think that's a cool flavor for the class, and it gives you more ways to imagine like how is your barbarian incorporating like the totems of these different animals, like, or like is it warping their bodies and making them more animalistic into this interesting hybrid or something. So I think that that's a cool flavor change for the better in my opinion. But now let's actually look at what the options are. So elephant, you get proficiency in athletics. Now I believe this is mostly the bear version, but it also gives you expertise now, which is kind of insane. In fact, all of these now give you expertise. Like, essentially, the idea is that this one gives you proficiency and then expertise in athletics and insight. This one does investigation and perception. And then this one does stealth or survival. And, like, I think that's hilarious that they're giving barbarians such easy access to expertise. It's obviously a lot more limited than like rogue expertise, but again, it's like it used to be that the rogue's main gimmick was they were the only ones that got expertise. And now just everybody, like now the barbarian's getting expertise. Oh man. Okay, and then we got Nature Speaker, which gives you commune with nature but as a ritual, and you use wisdom for it, which is, let me pull that up real quick. Sorry for this being a little bit off center. Um, okay. You briefly become one with nature, gain knowledge, etc., etc. Okay, you know what? This is actually kind of interesting because it means that essentially it gives more utility to the barbarian, so that now you can actually, do other things with it. Uh, you get to learn information about your environment. I don't think you can quite talk to plants, but like, you can learn about you can learn the existence of powerful entities and whatnot. Like, it's a utility ability. I like it. Giving the barbarian more utility, so they can actually do things other than hit stuff. It's always a good improvement. Um, Power of the Wilds, and then this is now the third animal choice. So lion, enemies within 5 feet of you have disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than you. I really like that. It makes it so that barbarians actually are drawing aggro. Incentivizing people to attack the barbarian is an important aspect of being a tank. One of the problems with D&D is that so often you build a tanky character, and then tactically, the enemy's like, okay, well, I could try to hit you, but I'll fail, or I could just attack the squishy wizard standing behind you, and giving the barbarian more ways to actually, encourage people to attack them is nice. Falcon, while the rage, you have a fly speed. Hull, provided you aren't wearing any armor. Hey, that's cool. And that's also, that adds more utility to rage. Being able to fly for 10 minutes every time you rage, and, like, no action required as well. Like, there's no... That's pretty cool. I like that. And then Ram, when you hit a large or smaller creature with a melee attack, it has the prone condition. After a strength save. And that's just every time you hit while rage is on. You know what? These are actually kind of nice. I feel like this ability should be lower. Um, Honestly, I kind of wish, like, the line ability is good, don't get me wrong. The problem is that it should be something that barbarians just have innately. Because, like I said, barbarians need to be able to encourage people to attack them and not their allies. I honestly kind of think that this should be changed to be just part of rage. Like, I know that's a pretty significant deviation, but, like, making it so that if the barbarian is raging next to somebody, they have to attack the barbarian or GTFO. I think that would be a good change to make rage actually like make you tanky, like it forces aggro towards you. But other than that, I mean, like the Falcon, that's really strong. The Ram, that's really interesting. I mean, prone is strong. It gives you that basically makes it that you don't have to use reckless attack, and it buffs your allies because anybody else who runs up with a melee weapon can also get advantage. So like that's all really good. Um, but we should also move on to the next subclass. So this is the brand new subclass, Path of the World Tree. So from what I understand, this is actually going to be one of the more magically inclined of the barbarian subclasses. Like, not in terms of, like, spells, but, like, in terms of, like, otherworldly powers. And it seems like it's actually going to be interesting, because it's based around basically, like, using the concept of the tree Yggdrasil from Norse mythology. You know, the classic tree that, like, connects all the outer planes and everything and all the different realms. So let's see here. So level 3, Vitality of the Tree. When you activate your Rage, you regain a number of hit points equal to your Barbarian level. At the start of each of your turns while your Rage is active, you can choose another creature within 10 feet of yourself to gain temp HP equal to a number of d6s equal to your Rage damage bonus and add them together. And then when your Rage ends, they vanish. That's kind of cool. I mean, it's a... Again, it adds another option to actually consider in combat. It doesn't take an action. It's just at the start of your turn, you just get to give somebody temp HP. So like, you just passively help people not die, which I think is cool. And like it also heals you. Like the barbarian healing you every time you enter rage. Like that's pretty cool. Like that's, you know what, that's a fun first ability. You get to make tactical choices in combat. It makes you more durable. And it scales pretty well with your leveling. So eventually that's 4d6 temp HP that you can grant every turn. That's pretty good. Branches of the Tree. While your rage is active, whenever a creature you can see ends its turn within 20 feet of you, you can use your reaction to summon spectral branches of the World Tree, and they have to make a strength save, or be teleported to an unoccupied space you can see within 5 feet of yourself, or within the nearest unoccupied space you can see. The space the target teleports to must be on a surface or liquid, and okay, all standard stuff. And also, actually, this design note is interesting. It mentions you can voluntarily fail any saving throw, which implies that this is intended for both enemies and allies, which makes sense. Because now, it's whenever a creature you can see ends its turn. So, you could say, have your fighter charge in, you know, maybe they do like a leap off a cliff to attack somebody, and then they end their turn, and then your barbarian reaches out with the World Tree and grabs them and pulls them back. Like, I could see some interesting, cool things with that. That's actually... I'm really liking the subclass so far. And of course, the other main benefit is that as the tank, it allows you to force enemies to be next to you and away from your allies, which is, of course, one thing that you really want to be able to do. You know, it's a classic, like, League of Legends style hook character, where you're just grabbing enemies, like, get over here. And then we have Battering Roots at level 10. Tendrils of the World Tree extend from your melee weapons. While you wield any weapon, any melee weapon, your reach of that weapon increases by 10 feet. And when you hit with it, you can activate the Push or Topple Mastery, even if you're using another mastery property with that weapon. That's cool. So the Push and Topple Masteries are, in my opinion, the strongest masteries. Topple is great because knocking people prone gives you advantage on all of your attack rolls and all of your allies' attack rolls in melee. And push is great because it lets you reposition people. So this means that at level 10, you could be using like a pole arm that has one mastery, and it says you can use another mastery. So I think this means that the way it's written, at least, you can use two weapon masteries in one turn. So you can use a weapon mastery like cleave to hit two people, or graze to hit somebody even if you miss, and then also activate push, and also have 10 feet of additional reach. So like if you are wielding a pole arm, you have a reach of like 20 feet. Like the barbarian becomes a presence on the battlefield that is unignorable, which I think is great. Like that is I'm really liking this subclass so far. Maybe there's something I feel like I'm missing something, cuz like I feel like it's supposed to be bad, but this is pretty good. And then level 14, our big, basically capstone ability for the subclass. Travel along the tree. So yeah, so this is interesting. So now the barbarian gets access to teleportation. They have the ability, when you touch a huge or larger tree, or a teleportation circle, you can create a link through the world tree to a teleportation circle somewhere else on the same world or on another plane of existence. You can specify a target destination in general terms, such as the City of Brass and blah blah blah. You and up to 5 willing creatures within 30 feet of you appear in the teleportation circle. If it's too small, they appear in places nearby. And then you can use it. You can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Once you've run out of uses of this feature, you can spend 5 uses of your rage choosing to activate this feature instead of rage. Okay, so you basically can do it once a day. I mean, okay, at level 14, how many uses of rage do you have? Rages. You have 5. So you can use it at most twice. And then at, level 6, or what is it, level 17, you can use it twice and still have 1 rage left over. It looks like they might have gotten rid of the level 20 capstone where barbarians have unlimited rages. That's another subtle change I just noticed. So now, that was the next thought I was gonna have is, so wait, so can a level 20 barbarian just teleport across the plains willy-nilly, which I think would be a cool and flavorful ability, but it looks like maybe not, which is a little disappointing. But hey, the fact that the barbarian of all people can be the one that teleports people between towns or to other planes of existence, like, you know what? I really like this subclass, Early level, you get a very tactical way to help keep your allies alive. Level 6, you get some, battlefield manipulation. Level 10, your weapons become insane. And level 14 is oddly enough a utility ability. But at the same time, it's something that, like, marshals, let alone barbarians, just cannot normally do. So that is cool. So let's check out the last subclass before we move on to the fighter. So Path of the Zealots, Divine Fury now allows you to determine the damage type each time. So that's cool. So yes, Divine Fury. Yeah, this was, I believe, in the... Yeah, so this was last seen in Xanathar's Guide. So this is new to the playtest, I believe, but not a new subclass in concept. So give me a second to pull that up. Okay, so yeah. In the original version, you pick Radiant or Necrotic damage when you gain the ability, and then you're just fixed and locked into that. Whereas now, you get to choose each time you deal the damage. So it's not even each time like you rage or something. It's each time you deal damage, you get to choose it, which it's a small buff, but it's nice because it means that you can better tailor your damage to the situation. Like if you're fighting zombies, maybe go with radiant damage. If you're fighting celestials, I guess, go with necrotic. And then you also get Warrior of the Gods. Now, if we compare that to the previous one, Warrior of the Gods is your soul is marked for endless battle. If you're resurrected, and it only resurrects you, then it doesn't need material components. So I always thought was kind of an interesting way to handle that. It's interesting that this is the subclass they chose to make default. Because keep in mind, all these subclasses are going to be in the base player's handbook. So, Warrior of the Gods now includes the ability to regain additional HP when healed by a spell. So yeah, so that is the thing, right? Again, this is the kind of ability where it's like, it's cool, it's flavorful, but how often do you actually die that this would actually be relevant? It's nice that it's not the only ability you get at level 3, because you get the Divine Fury, and, which gives you the bonus damage. But it's interesting that now you get the bonus health. So whenever anything restores any of your hit points, you gain an additional D12 of hit points. And you can use this, a limited number of times. And then, of course, you still have the Vex. So, it's a nice buff to make it so that the ability is more useful. Now, if only they would do that for Brutal Critical, but that's besides the point. Fanatical Focus. So, if you fail a saving throw while your rage is active, you can re-roll it. Use the new roll. Use this once per rage. I think that's the same as it was before. If I pull that up again, yeah, that's basically the same. Zealous Presence. As a bonus action, you unleash a battle cry infused with divine energy. Up to 10 other creatures gain advantage on attack rolls until the end of your next turn. Can't use it again until you finish a long rest, or until you've... If you've run out, you can expend a use of your rage to activate it again. I mean... Okay, what's the previous one? What's the change here? So the previous one, Zealous Presence... so... You can only use it once, so now you can spend rages to use it multiple times. That's okay, I guess. It feels like it should just be something that's like you can use it once per rage, honestly. Because, again, this is level 10. We're getting up there in power level at this point. Being able to grant all of your allies advantage on attack rolls for one turn, once per rage, because it's basically once per fight at most, right? So... I feel like that could be buffed again to just make it once per rage. I don't see why it has to consume your rages entirely. And then, of course, you get Rage Beyond Death, which now turns you into a warrior spirit. What? Okay, what's the original version? So Rage Beyond Death originally is while you're raging, having 0 doesn't knock you unconscious, you still make death saving throws. However, if you would die... You don't die until your rage ends, and then you only die then if you still have 0 hit points. So, this is successfully... You can assume the form of a spectral warrior. You gain the following benefits. Okay, this seems completely different then. You have a fly speed equal to your speed and can hover. You can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. But you take 1d10 force damage if you end your turn inside a creature or an object. Okay, so you could fly, and you could just move through stuff, and you take and when you're hit by an attack roll, you could just decide to make it miss. Okay. So yeah, this is just a completely different ability then. And so you're gaining hit points or drop to 0 once you use this feature. So again, this is just once per day, and that's a little bit more understandable. Honestly, I don't know which one I prefer. I kind of like the flavor of just not literally being too angry to die. You must still make death saving throws, blah blah blah. I mean, it's still flavorful though. Being able to just assume a spirit. I might have to think on whether or not I like this one more than the other one. Lasts for 1 minute. So wait a minute. So when Relentless Rage... So Relentless Rage, that's one of the base abilities, right? So Relentless Rage. Oh god, I need to navigate through this sheet. So Relentless Rage is when you would die, but you don't. Right, because I don't think that's actually part of the base Barbarian originally. So this is kind of... So Relentless Rage is basically this. So, okay, I see what they're going for. Is that Relentless Rage makes you not die, and then Path of the Zealot is when you don't die, you become this sort of ghost form. Okay, that makes more sense now. I see what they're doing. And then when you regain any hit points, you kind of you go back to normal. And that's why, okay. This is actually pretty interesting. I like it. I'm starting to like this. It's growing on me. But yeah, so that's the Barbarian. I think I'm going to split this up into multiple videos because this is already way too long. So I might do one video for each class, since there's a lot to cover here. I mean, this whole thing is like 54 pages long. So, yeah, for now, that is going to be the Barbarian. Overall, my thoughts on the Barbarian... let's see here. I mean, I think that... I do think they're doing a lot of changes for the better. Just the base Barbarian ability to be able to use your strength to do a bunch of skills is really nice. It is, of course, going to be unfortunate they nerfed the Bear Barbarian, but like I said, they buffed a bunch of the other stuff, so I honestly don't think that's as big a deal as some people are going to make it out to be. Instinctive Pounce is nice. I still wish Brutal Critical had something else alongside it. I like that Relentless Rage is lower. Overall, I think this is a pretty good Barbarian. You have a lot more choices. Weapon Mastery is still a thing. I still wish they had improved Weapon Mastery, but I'll probably get into that more in the Fighter video. But yeah. So, honestly, I think this is pretty good. Still room for improvement, don't get me wrong. Make sure that, that there is a survey on D&D Beyond. Make sure that when that survey opens, that, you know, if you want to have your voice heard, that you go to the website and you let them know what you want to have changed. But until then, I think that's going to do it for the Barbarian video. I really like the new World Tree Barbarian. I think that might be my new favorite kind of Barbarian, honestly. Just based on some of the cool, flavorful abilities you can do. But yeah, so overall pretty good. And I guess I'll see you guys next time when we go over the Fighter.